We'll open this work session with Scottsboro City Council. Invocation given by myself, pledge led by Mr. Keesman. Dear Heavenly Father, as we come before you this evening, we lift up your name and give you thanks and praise for this beautiful day and all of your gifts in it. Father, I ask that we become good stewards of your provision, that you continue to watch over this city, over its citizens, over its workers, and over its leadership. It's in your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda this evening is to discuss airport projects.
No, sir. He was away, been away at a family wedding.
Okay, you gonna talk about that for us?
I can. He's got, in your packet here, there's 4 different items. He's requesting some budget amendment for, total $6,706. Number 1, they're wanting to repaint the fuel tank. That's $1,612.80. It had been recommended to extend our security fence between the building and the fence that separates us and Southern Heating and Cooling. That quote is for $1,060. The third is needing to put a keypad lock on the gate. You see the quote there from Sharp for $1,887. And then the last is for some additional LED lighting for security purposes. The lights come through the electric power board, and then you see the installation charge, and that's $2147. It had an incident where we didn't have sufficient lighting on the security cameras a while back, and that brought us to the attention to need additional security lighting out there near the fuel tank and so forth.
Okay. So this would be a budget amendment for the airport for $6,706.80. Anybody have any questions, comments? We'll put that on next week to consider. Next is discuss bass fishing tournament for 2019. I understand, Mr. Mayor, that Bass had a tournament scheduled that we would be looking at in
It's a
2020.
bass fishing tournament
Oh,
at this time, yes.
Okay. And the organizers have a desire to move that up.
A year earlier, yes, sir. And all this is tied into our boat ramp expansion that we've been fortunate to get that grant for, going from 3 lanes to 8 lanes, which is putting us in position for some larger tournaments.
And we were going to have a budget item for 2020 for that.
Yes, sir.
Remind me what those numbers are.
That to host a larger tournament, they were looking at $75,000 in assistance for that level of tournament. But if we can move it up a year sooner, just based on their scheduling, the fee or participation fee from the city and lodging tax, tourism grant, all that would be $50,000 instead of $75,000.
Okay.
And
when are they looking for a decision?
next Monday night. It's a handshake agreement. The contracts wouldn't be signed till a later date, but based on how they schedule tournaments, they're needing to complete their calendar within the next 2 weeks.
I guess the reason for my question is whether it's something that we need to do next Monday night, or we can put it in the budget.
Well, I think,
Is this going to come out?
you can chime in, but we, we would like to get it, the commitment from the city approved by next Monday night. The specifics of how we come up with the city portion, whether it's through tourism or sales tax or whatever, those details we could work out. We're
just so I understand,
yes,
though,
yes,
it's going to come out of next year's budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? We'll put that down for Monday night.
Good. Thanks.
And we're going to add an item, number 3 on the work session of CDG report. Daniel, you got something for us?
Good evening. Just a few moments ago, I handed you a couple of figures that we'll talk from. This is in relation to the capacity remaining at the landfill and the municipal solid waste section, so the household and commercial garbage line section. What I'll do, if you'll allow me just a moment, the first is a figure that we'll talk from showing kind of your layout at the landfill. The second, kind of 11 by 17, is a timeline that we'll talk about a bit. And then thirdly is our proposal to perform the permitting and design necessary for an expansion. So if you will, just kind of orient you, page north in your figure. The red cells are the MSW portion. Blue is the C&D, construction demolition disposal area that we permitted some years ago. The white is the total property, or not the total property, but the landfill property owned by the city. And that's important because there are 2 parcels that, although are owned by the city, they're not permitted for a landfill. So they're kind of used for operational reasons, but they can't be used for disposal. So some time ago, we began working with Eddie and our teaming partner Highland Technical to identify the next cell. Right now, you've got a few years left in cell 2, but that is the rate of disposal, and the remaining life has kind of changed a bit since the last time we spoke about it. So in our analysis, we looked at an area to the north of existing cell 2, again, page north, and we had also looked at an area south and east, kind of adjacent to the east of cell 1 and immediately south of cell 2. We ran some analysis to see which was the most cost-effective cell for you guys to build, giving some environmental siting standards or signal high groundwater, other uses of your property. And so through that analysis, we had identified proposed cell 3, which is shown in your figure there, for the next cell to be built. At the time of that analysis, there was about a 4-year window of remaining capacity for cell 2. I think that's a little bit shorter than that now. And the time frame to permit through ADM is looking at about 2.5 years now. So as it stands, best we can tell, you got about 3 years remaining for disposal capacity in cell 2, and do some ADM changes, and you're changing the rate of fill in that area. Looks like you're getting really close to running out of capacity, given the time it will take to permit. So if you will jump to the second figure, which is the timeline, kind of we'll outline our proposal and the activities that go on from today until the operation of a proposed cell, just to kind of give you an idea of what the time frame we're up against. So if we were given the authorization to proceed, our first step is kind of the environmental siting standards. So in that, we would work with Highland Technical, whose proposal is included in your packet as a line item, to do wetlands assessment, threatened and endangered species update, cultural resource survey, which is kind of archaeological in nature. It's through the State Historic Preservation Officer. And the hydrogeologic assessment, which is used to establish seasonal high water table. We have to maintain a certain separation from that and the design and operation of the landfill, so that kind of sets our baseline. At this site, that's a particularly important thing because of the surrounding land uses. The further north you work, the less separation to groundwater. So by getting back on the south and east side, we're kind of getting some additional disposal So from there, we would do those assessments as well as some updates to survey. We've got a boundary survey performed by sub-consultant Brandon Allen Land Surveying, topographic survey, and an edge of liner determination. Without going into a lot of depth, the plastic liner beneath the cell, we've got to identify the actual elevation so we can tie to it. We're working with the landfill staff to kind of pothole and identify those. From there, we would go into the design, which normally takes about a 6-month process to do the base grading plan, final grading plan, all of your monitoring network changes that are associated with the lateral expansion, and then submit to ADM. From there, it's kind of, it's a little bit out of our hands. It's an ADM's review process, which, given a lateral expansion of a composite line landfill, is fairly lengthy. They go through the same review process that we go through in the design and development, so it's not uncommon for them to review and then us provide some clarification, some potential revisions to the permit plans. And we're anticipating that to be about a 6-month process. So that puts us out into October of next year. We're a year into the timeline. From there, we'll have a permit review and public notice process where ADM takes comment on the permit. If we receive the permit there, then we're kind of in the winter season. It's not the best time to build a cell, but we've got time to prepare the construction plans and get it ready for bid, targeting a summer of 2020 construction event, which gives you about just a few months to play with. So if we were to delay this, then the risk is you run out of capacity and it kind of triggers a closure process, which is very costly for the city because we wouldn't have any disposable capacity. So that's kind of, I guess, if you will, the plan on how we would move forward along with the timeline. The third in the packet is text reference outlining our services along with including Highland Technical, Highland Land Surveying, the wetlands, threatened and endangered, the design process. It does include the abandonment of a groundwater monitoring well that's kind of in the construction area that Highland Technical would do. Just all of this is part of the normal permit and approval process. It's just kind of some tasks that are outlined. And then the final page kind of summarizes the fees in our proposal. It includes Highland Technical, who most of the time contracts as our teaming partner, but they already have a contractual relationship with you guys in the solid waste authority, so it's kind of a continuation of their services. This work would be it would be invoiced as it progresses, so it's not a fee due immediately on authorization to proceed. It's billed as we progress. That's kind of a general overview. I'll open it up to any questions you council or mayor may have. We'll go from there.
Mr. Stewart, did you have?
Yes, I have a question. The cell number 2, you said that it has about 3 years left.
Yes, sir.
Public cell number 3, what is the estimated life of that cell?
It gives 15 years. So we, the benefit there is that you can kind of piggyback on both existing cells, and so you're able to fill against them and raise them. So 15 years at current disposal rates. One of the things that I intended to point out, but I apologize, I forgot. One of the things that has kind of increased that fill rate is the delay on the certification of construction demolition cells. So instead of separating our waste into 2 different types of cells, right now, it's our understanding that most of it's going into the MSW section. So you kind of, you're eating up MSW life with C&D disposal.
Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a comment. You said that we're filling in the faster than we anticipated. And if we don't have one ready when it is filled, then we shut it down. But I'm basically saying we're out of the landfill business because it would be very difficult to come back up once you shut one down. Is that correct?
It is. It's a much much easier process to permit an expansion as opposed to a new greenfield site. The impact there would be twofold. It would impact your hauling operations because you don't have a controlled point of disposal. And there are triggers within your permit already. So if you reach capacity, then you trigger the closure process. So if you fill up, then within 120 days you have to start closure, which is a very costly process. You have to put a synthetic cap over the top of the landfill as well. So one of the very early things we did when we began working with you is to kind of redesign the final fill elevations so that you didn't have to close. So when we were looking at cell 1, I believe one of our initial assessments was an interim closure rather than a synthetic liner closure. Several $1 million that you, the city and the solid waste authority were looking at to spend to close cell 1. So we kind of re-permitted things to do that piggybacking so that we didn't have to move that closure forward. And this would do the same thing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question for you or for the mayor, but you mentioned a lot of ways to see this going in that sale in C and D. We got, is it not supposed to be going into the blue sales?
So it's allowed by permit to go into the red cells. It's just that represents your more expensive cell build out. So most sites that deal with construction demolition permit a less stringent type of facility and put that waste in it. So the blue cells are C and D. And I guess we began probably 12 months ago and starting the excavation there. Kind of throttled back about April, May timeframe. The construction of that new blue cell, and so the existing cell kind of ran out of capacity before the new one was ready.
I'm assuming that we would need to have a solid waste disposal authority meeting to approve CDG moving forward with the plan. So I'll get with Ms. Phillips and probably schedule that for the first part of October. That'll give the members an opportunity to kind of digest what you provide us with,
Yes, sir.
and we'll certainly make you aware of when that meeting is scheduled.
Okay. And any questions that I need to answer in the meantime, I'd say, be able to do that.
Thank you. Being no delegations, we'll move to reports. Mr. Mayor?
I don't have anything. Clemens Road's progressing well. They hadn't started the widening. I was out there Saturday, and they have today. I don't know, Greg, have they? No.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank everyone for coming out, and especially want to thank CDG for coming in and giving us information. Appreciate y'all's work.
Mr. Stewart?
The only thing I have, I was going to ask the mayor about the storm shelter. I saw that it was in place. Any updates on?
They were supposed to be doing the topsoil today and forming and get ready for the sidewalk. As soon as that's done, we'll get a notice and we'll have a formal opening. Yes, sir.
Good.
Should be this week.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Gary Stewart?
The only thing I have to say is, it's pretty exciting to discuss this BASS tournament, because when I was young, when I was quite young, the BASS had just started. Had a lot of tournaments in Scottsboro. And this is the Elite Series. This is the top BASS fishermen, and it's a pretty good opportunity for students.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Smith?
I too would like to thank CDG for coming and talking to us tonight. I don't think most people in this town, and maybe even on the council, realize how much money comes back to the city through our landfill. Not only do we get rid of our waste, but we also we pay our garbage bill, which is every home. The county participates and we get money there. So it's a big high dollar thing, and if we let it go bust, we liable to let us go bust. And I keep harping about being scared we're gonna go bust someday. Also, I talked to Tommy last week a few minutes about bringing the antique car show back to the courthouse square now that all of that's finished. We, a couple of gentlemen here tonight, Isaac and Isaac Ashmore running Murphy, and could we discuss that with them just for a moment? Would y'all mind coming forward and let's talk about it?
No, right now, we're doing it out at, by the, in front of Shades, and there's no shade out there and it's hot. What we understood and what we were wondering, if we come back to the square, will we be funded like we were before? And we would also like the city to help us promote it. I know Huntsville, Fort Payne really, the city promotes their cruising and car shows. If we came back, now this would have to be a vote too, and then I'm not speaking for everybody, I'm just saying we'd have to vote and decide whether we could come back or not. But if we did, we would be interested in the city, and I'd also, myself, just be interested in the city having a website, which they don't have, that would promote a lot of this, because a lot of people come in to our car shows and wonder, do y'all have a website that we can go to find out when you're going to have the next car show, or where you're going to have it and all that, and we don't have that. I know when we was on city council, we had talked about, or when I was on city council, we had talked about it one time, having somebody within the city to keep an update and a running date of everything that's going on in our city, which would be the barbecue cook-off, all that stuff. People don't know about it. People are always asking questions about what is going on in the city of Scottsboro, even the bass term and everything else. If you had a website and somebody to run that website and keep it updated weekly, then I think it would help promote a lot of things going on the square and within the city.
So you guys have an interest in moving back to the square?
Yeah, we have.
That's great. I'd love to see
we have
that.
interest in it, yes. Yeah.
Now, how many more do you have?
We have one more in October this time.
So
It was
if it were to work out, it'd probably be best to start planning when it started in the spring or whenever you start. But you know, we talked about, we did all this work on the square to enhance the look and to bring stuff in. And nothing would be better to me than bring all these antique cars in and where people can walk and see. And
Well, we would like to coordinate with the downtown revitalization too, that, you know, especially if they're gonna have a barbecue cook-off. You know, I think there's enough area on the square, we could say be on the north side or the east side or wherever, and then they still have a barbecue. And that would, you know, if people come, the more we bring and put on the square, the more things we have, I think the more people will bring to the square.
well, what you might want to do is look up here, look across, and don't look at him and don't look at me, and look at the rest of them, plus 2 new ones. And probably spend this winter talking and planning, and maybe you can start this thing first thing in the spring.
Apply for a tourism grant.
As early as possible, that way you
Maybe
can
we
kind of work out.
go through the
some
budget, you know, we'd like to, you know, come when y'all start on the budget and see what we can work out. Thank you.
All right, anything else, Mr.
All right.
Smith? Speaking of the budget, Mr. Wheeler will be out on vacation this week. So we're going to set a budget hearing for next Monday night, immediately following the council meeting. We met a couple weeks ago and everybody got their departmental assignments. You have a preliminary copy of the budget, I think, in your packet, right?
I laid something down and printed off this afternoon. You should have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go through that and, as possible, meet with your individual department heads and go over their departmental budget, so we'll be able to have a conversation. next Monday night, and we'll follow that up with a meeting Tuesday night at 6 o'clock to go over that. And then we'll set a follow-up meeting after that. The next thing we had, the mayor mentioned the grant application that we sent for earlier this year concerning the boat ramp at Goose Pond. I've got documentation here. The design actually had a reduction. It reduced the overall amount of the project, I believe, from this to this.
Yeah.
From 612,000 down to 418. That makes our match, will move from 153,000 and change down to 104,000 and change. So it saved us about $50,000 on the match there. Mr. Kimmer, do we need to redo the resolution to reflect those numbers, or is this?
I think that is probably sufficient, but it would not do any harm to ratify and confirm.
Is that all right with everybody if we put that on next week also? So we'll do that. The only other thing I will say, we had a little discussion about this last week. The resolution that we sent to the Planning Commission requesting them to look, they've come back and said that the wording is a little confusing. I hope to work with Mr. Kimmer this week to maybe rewrite that, and I'll present that to the council next week with a little more detail to our request. That's all I've got as far as reports go. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I appreciate Danny coming and giving us an update on the CDG and the landfill expansion. If nobody else has anything, we'll stand adjourned until next month.